afternoon, and I'm delighted to be joined by the one and only Michelle Lee for the next part of our Mortal Kombat franchise series. Michelle Lee played the character of Mileena in Mortal Kombat Legacy in Season 2. I suppose, Michelle, Mortal Kombat, it's almost like James Bond, the sort of franchise. Once you're part of the Illumina, you're always part of it, and you're always something that will always be attached to you. It's something that seems to will never die. The Mortal Kombat franchise is still very going strong. The games are selling worldwide at a phenomenal rate all across consoles. The comic books across America have a massive sort of fan base as well. And you were part of something that was quite unique in terms of that it was a sort of a series that you were part of in terms of Mortal Kombat Legacy. Can you tell us a bit about that, and you tell us how the opportunity came about for you to play Mileena in Mortal Kombat Legacy?
Yeah, it was a huge honor to get to play Mileena. I am aware of the video game as well. Back in the day, I played a lot of video games, and all the girls wanted to be Katana, and I for sure wanted to be Katana. However, when Mileena came about, I was like, oh yeah, that's definitely more me. But getting to be a part of it, I have a friend, Larnell Stovall, who I've worked with, and a lot of the people that they had for my season were kind of people that I knew coming into the business. They were actors, they were excellent martial artists, all of them, the whole gamut. Sam Wynn, who played Katana with me, we all kind of knew each other in a sense, and we were all actors, fighters, and so it kind of was a thing where a friend of mine recommended me. I auditioned, and thankfully I was honored to have booked the role.
Yeah, and I suppose Mortal Kombat Legacy, I suppose the storylines, there were short sort of mini-series, and it was around principal characters and playing out. We had that backstory in relation to Scorpion and Sub-Zero, and then we obviously the backstory between Mileena and Kitanya and Shao Kahn, and we saw a new sort of side to Mortal Kombat, an expanding of the storyline where the principal movies were probably based around the Liu Kang character versus the good versus the bad versus evil. Now we got to see in the Legacy side, we got to see so many of these sort of stories and personal hatreds and bitterness and family relationships and love and loss and that sort of thing played out in Mortal Kombat Legacy. And we're now characters like the Mileena, Kitanya sort of hatred and rivalry and bloodkin was brought to the foreground.
Yeah, I thought that was really cool. I thought Kevin did a great job. Kevin, the director, did an excellent job of like revisualizing the original Mortal Kombat and turning it into something more modern at the time, more modern, and delved deeper into the characters and the reasons behind why they did what they did, and just kind of taking that storyline from the video games and the first movie into a whole nother deep dive POV. And I thought that was really cool that they did that.
Yeah, and I suppose, Michelle, how did opportunity come about for you to get the role? Had you many auditions to go through to get the role of Mileena in Mortal Kombat Legacy?
Well, I was recommended by a friend. But yeah, I had to go through some auditions for sure, and it kind of was a thing where I was like, oh, I hope I get it, and at some point I was like, I'm not sure if I'm gonna get it, because they just don't tell you immediately. Sometimes for my case it wasn't, and then it ended up that Kevin was like, yeah, we like her for Mileena, and I booked it. So it was something that was, definitely recommended by a friend, but I still had to go through the works. It wasn't like, oh, we'll trust you on this. I was put in and then also auditioned.
And Michelle, can you tell us a bit about the fight scenes, and how long did they take in terms of your fight scenes in Mortal Kombat Legacy? Speaking to some of the martial artists that appeared in some of the Mortal Kombat movies, they could tell me it could take maybe a week, 2 weeks for several parts of a fight scene to take place. I presume in Mortal Kombat Legacy, you're probably working within a shorter sort of time span and time frame to roll out an episode. But I still imagine for each episode, I assume, apart from the acting parts, so fight scenes, I suppose, probably took 3-4 days in terms of all the angles and the shooting that had to take place.
Yeah, that's a good assumption, about 3 days. However, sometimes if they break it up into certain parts, they could just take one long day, maybe a 12-hour, 14-hour day, and just get all of it, you know, or maybe 16 hours. I mean, we for sure had some long days because we just wanted to get that section of the fight through and through, covered very well, and filmed the way that, you know, everybody envisioned it. But, you know, on a movie set, when you have a lot of time to prep and a lot of money behind rehearsals and like testing, that could take a couple more days. But since the Legacy season was kind of almost like a TV show, and it came off into little segments because of, I'm assuming, budget restrictions. I don't know. I wasn't on the producing side, but, you know, because of the format of it, it was more on a tighter schedule. And I think that's why it helped that they had hired excellent martial artists that could pick up choreography like that. Like any one of those people in there, you could show them, you know, a 20 beat fight and they would get it within minutes. You know what I mean? They were all excellent martial artists, everybody on there. So that really helped in saving the time of, okay, now we don't need to train someone that has no martial arts experience, a whole fight scene, and also make it look, you know, close to the video game and have their characters being represented properly. So I think the benefit in choosing those people really helped everything go smoothly and shoot quickly and just do, you know, maybe a day or two on each fight.
Yeah, I suppose you were cast in, as we know, each episode contained a different story in Mortal Kombat Legacy. So obviously your story was based around the Mileena, Kitanya sort of hatred, the Blood King, but all the different stories that were made up the Mortal Kombat Legacy. And I suppose you were in season 2. Were you around? Did you get to see other episodes being shot and being on location in terms of the other sort of fight scenes taking place and seeing the other backstories taking place, or were you just brought in especially for your episode and that was held within a week, and once your episode was sort of shot in, you didn't see many others of the storylines, or were you all brought together as one cast for season 2, and did you get to see the finished project of?
You're absolutely right on that. Because our each episode was so self-contained, it was kind of like, well, I only was there for my episode, and all the other ones I don't know, I'm not sure where they're shot. And, you know, I'm sure if I insisted that I was able to come on set for the other episodes for Scorpion or, you know, any of those, they may have let me, but they were shot in different locations and different people, and so with different actors, and so I was not involved in any of the other episodes. However, we were shooting, I feel like we were shooting simultaneously with another unit. So we have like first, you know, a couple units going at the same time, and they might have been, you know, around in the same area. So I did get to peek in on some other episodes, but they had nothing to do with me. So I was not, you know, involved in that. It was pretty much my segment, and that's it.
And I suppose, Michelle, in terms of Mortal Kombat Legacy, how fun was it for you to play that sort of fantasy character role, but it had a sort of human sort of feel to it? Because that's one thing about Mortal Kombat. It does bring that human aspect to it. It's sort of humans with sort of advanced humans, dare I say, with sort of special powers and the elements. But there is a sort of the concepts, the flaws that we see in every sort of human aspects of a character is brought up in Mortal Kombat. And is that something that you enjoy, playing this sort of fantasy character role, getting to dress up in the pink that was Mileena and the sort of the fangs and the mask and everything that came with it?
Yeah, I absolutely love it. I'm a huge fan of, video games in general and unearthly things in general. And it's fun to play a human, like you said, a human-esque sort of monster that you're trying to justify and relate to, but then at the same time, it is completely not a human. I like the way you say human, by the way.
Yeah.
Human. But yeah, it was definitely fun. She's so iconic. I mean, I've known of her since before I was, up for her. I know a lot of people aren't into the world, but I for sure, knew of her. And because I'm a martial artist growing up, and because she's female and she in the video game, she's badass, and I always want to play katana or her when and if I do play the games myself. Yeah, it's so iconic and so fun to get to wear those outfits. And I'm like, oh, those are the outfits that she wears, and we're just doing a different version of it, and I get to put it on and be her and have the fangs. And I didn't know what the CG of my teeth were gonna look like, but I sure envisioned it and acted like I had them, and that was super fun too. And then when I got to see it, I was like, oh cool, look at my teeth, look at my fangs. They just, and we just had the scar grafted onto my cheeks. They had this whole like Joker scar cut into my face, but I didn't have the actual teeth, and then they put it in later. When I saw it, I flipped out.
I assume by talking to you, Michelle, that's your favorite Halloween costume every year. If you ever go to a fancy dress party, the character, I suppose, that you always come by, I suppose, would be Mileena. I suppose, in terms of Halloween, no better costume to have.
Yeah, I mean, that's true, but they didn't give us the costumes, right? Because whenever you do a film, they just keep it for future reference. And then the Mileena costumes that you buy are just, I can't wear those. They're crazy inappropriate. So I don't ever dress up as her. I mean, they're not inappropriate. She's just out there, you know what I mean? So I haven't actually worn her costume for Halloween, but I mean, if I could find some sort of version of it or make a version of it, I would.
And I suppose, Michelle, bring you on now to the final sort of aspect in this. We have a new Mortal Kombat movie coming out in January 2021. And I suppose asked this to Chris Casamassa. I asked this to Keith Cook. I asked this to Brian Thompson. And the reaction was affirmative response. If the opportunity came about for you to play a cameo role in the new Mortal Kombat movie, is that something that you would jump on straight away and start to sign me up and you get your bags packed and first thing on the plane?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, since then, the characters I've gotten to play in other things, in other movies and TV shows coming up, like it's all had this element of the honesty of being kind of not a bad person, but justifying why you do the things that you do. And I love that about each character that I play. And so getting to play Mileena again and getting to justify why I would rip someone's head off, I'm into it, and I would definitely be into getting a cameo in that. Put it out there.
And that's a thumbs up so from Michelle Lee to the future producers of Mortal Kombat. If they're watching this, Michelle is definitely on board. She's winking as well, giving all the signals that she's up for that. Michelle, I suppose, lastly, when you look back of all the characters that you played in terms of your career, was Mileena probably that character that was that bit out there, that sort of fanatical sort of fantasy character? And throughout your career, have you ever played anything like that again, or have you ever seen anything like that again?
I mean, I have to say that the types of characters that I play are out there. I'm never like the nice best friend or the nice the nice girl. I would love to be, but for some reason, casting doesn't see me that way. But I don't know. There's something about my face or my personality. But so I do play outrageous characters. But Mileena is something different in that I feel like she comes with this whole universe behind her, and a whole iconic world that's just, it's like a Marvel world, you know, it's just iconic and outrageous, and she's definitely a special one. So I'm so honored I got to play her and be a part of it.
On that note, Michelle Lee, an absolute pleasure talking to you today. In the next part of our series, the Mortal Kombat franchise, delighted to talk to Michelle Lee, who played the character Mileena in season 2 of Mortal Kombat Legacy. And no doubt, Michelle, when the Mortal Kombat reunions come up now in the next 20 years or something, we'll definitely we'll see you on our TV screens. Once you're part of it, you'll always be part of it, as the saying goes. And pleasure for talking to us this evening, Michelle Lee. And in these troublesome times, in this unsafe sort of world, stay safe and take care. And as they would say in Mortal Kombat, finish him or finish her.
Yes, you too. Take care.
Cheers. Thank you.